So why don't you read the book The Unbearable Lightness of Being by Milan Kundera? It's a really good book. Why don't you wear a blue striped dress? 'Cause I am. Why don't you work out, because it releases endorphins in your body and you feel happy. Sometimes, other times you feel tired. Why don't you make sure you're getting enough sleep? Why don't you spend lots of time with your friends? And why don't you cancel work and call in sick and just take a holiday?
बघा काही एक्सक्लुसिव्ह फोटो जे तिने एका मॅगझिनसाठी क्लिक केले आहेत. तिच्या या आदांचा कुणीही दिवानाच होईल, आणि जेव्हा अशी बला सजेशन देईल ते कोण ऐकणार नाही. आणि नवाबची बहीण आणि व्हेरी नोन ऍक्ट्रेस सुहा अली खानला जेव्हा विचारलं व्हाय डोंट यू, तेव्हा मिळालं एकदम साधं सरळ सजेशन. याला तर तुम्ही नक्कीच फॉलो कराल.
Don't you learn a martial art? Why don't you read a book? Why don't you shop at a thrift store? Why don't you bake a cake? And why don't you teach English to some underprivileged children?
आणि जाता जाता सारा जैन आणि अमृता पुरी यांचं सजेशन देखील ऐका.
Why don't you wear mixed match print more often? Why don't you wear feathers in your hair? Why don't you drink some more water instead of cola? Why don't you wear your hair the way it is instead of relaxing it? Why don't you go skydiving? Why don't you cut your hair short? Why don't you wear bright red lipstick? Why don't you eat without counting your calories? And why don't you live every day like it's your life?
सजेशन त्यांच्याकडूनही मागितली, जे आपल्यासाठी डिझाईन करतात अत्यंत सुंदर ड्रेसेस, आणि त्यांना कशा प्रकारची टेनिस मॅच आवडेल ऐका.
Champagne during the day is perfect. So why don't you have a champagne glass before a tennis match? And I think there should be nudity allowed in the tennis match. Why don't you have a topless match? For men or women, both.
आपल्या फेवरेट स्टारचं सजेशन तर आपण ऐकलंच, आणि आपल्यालाही काही पसंत आली असतील तर व्हाय डोंट यू. ब्युरो रिपोर्ट TV9.